If Unite reps had hoped to gain any insight as to why all of their approximately 70 members at the bus company had switched to the GGCA, they were left disappointed. Little progress was made at the depot today, where they lingered in the car park, speaking instead to management.
As it stands, we haven't made much progress because it does seem like either members or ex-members for that still have to process a resignation. So this is a process of when there's a resignation into Unite, we are duty bound to go and request information from the member. Obviously, should they be willing to engage with us on the reasons, and obviously that helps us shape our engagement moving forward. And for now, it seems like there's a little bit of reluctance from the membership. We can't say why. We don't know, but I think we do have to do a bit more investigating. But for now, not a lot of progress.
You can't say why, but GBC understands that although the GGCA say there has been no pay agreement between them, GBC understands that Unite doesn't believe that's necessarily the case.
We don't have evidence of that as such, but there is a clear indication from some of our members that words to the effect of an agreement has been made. So you can imagine how much problems that can cause when you talk about union membership, because it could easily sway. When words to that effect are proposed in any meeting, it's easily assumed that someone can change union or take certain action as a result of it. So it's important that we make sure that this is not the case, and if it is the case, that we tackle it head on, because if this is the case, we can't allow this to happen.
Well, what can you do about it?
How will we go about it? It all depends, because I would imagine we've never been in this position before. But first of all, it's important to ascertain the facts, get the evidence for the facts, and if that's the case, then challenge it. But the process it's never happened before, so yet it will be a fluid situation.
Now, where does this leave Unite? Because Unite say it's mandated to call for industrial action on the basis of a vote of its membership to reject the government's public sector pay deal. 84% rejected, and that's of the membership who voted, 48% voted. So 2 questions to you. Where does this leave you? Because the understanding I have is that there are about 70 members here. Does it weaken your position? And the second question is, should you have waited and reballoted for a larger membership?
I'll take the first question, but in terms of the strength that we lose or not, this is all depending on negotiating rights. As it stands, there's been no formal challenge for negotiating rights, and that's the procedure that we should see with industrial relations involved. This hasn't happened, but yet over the space of 3 hours, we were told by a few individuals in positions of power that we no longer hold negotiating rights, and you can imagine that arbitrarily our negotiating rights cannot be changed from one side to another without a fair and just process. So that's why Unite is not happy with how everything has gone. Unite will not dispute whether we have negotiating rights once the actual process has been done, and this will go through industrial relations, but as it stands, that hasn't happened. Therefore, Unite feel hard done by in that sense. The fact of losing members, Unite will not dispute that we have been in receipt of resignations, but now we're doing our due diligence. We're going back to those members and ascertaining what the reasons are behind their potential leaving, because as it stands, they could take back their resignations, but for now we don't know whether that will be the case.
Okay, so let me just restate my question. Does this weaken your hand when it comes to calling for industrial action?
It will potentially weaken our hand from one workplace, not necessarily for all the other workplaces that have agreed to take action once we call it. Should we lose negotiating rights in the GBTL, then I could safely say that potentially we won't have the strength, because the GGCA has clearly stated that they will not support industrial action.
Do you think that it was wise to call for industrial action on the basis of a 48% voter turnout?
The turnout I don't think is much of an issue. I think the issue is more the fact that potentially there's an opportunity that's been sought by either the other union, they've seen some discontent potentially and they've jumped on that. So it does weaken, but it doesn't mean that in other workplaces we cannot continue with our action, which we are very much going to do so.
So just to conclude, you haven't been able to speak to your members here today. Where do you go from now?
We have spoken to members who have handed in resignations. So we have tried to speak to them, and as it stands, they do not confirm that there's been an offer. Well, they confirmed that there's been talks about proposals, but the issue we have is that these talks or proposals have been with a union that had no negotiating rights at the time of these negotiations. So that's why Unite doesn't understand how this process has been allowed to happen. And it begs the question of, are we on a level playing field? Because if we're not, then we're going to have to challenge that somehow.
With tension simmering and questions unanswered, Unite will no doubt be assessing its next steps as the growing rivalry between themselves and the GGCA looks set to escalate.